Today we're walking around this beautiful cemetery in my hometown, Lapeer, Michigan.
This is a cemetery called Mount Loretto Cemetery. There are some very interesting graves here, some cool headstones. We can't wait to check this place out with you guys, and we cordially invite you to come along.
Come along. It sure is a beautiful day in Lapeer, Michigan.
The sun is shining. It's got to be something like 72, 73 degrees. Just gorgeous weather here in the summertime in Lapeer.
There's a nice breeze, so it makes for a perfect day to film.
This is a relatively small cemetery, but there are a lot of really interesting graves in here. The first one we're going to start with is Randolph Joseph Gardner. He liked to go by Randy. On August 22nd, 1986, there was a high school dance. Randy, along with many of his friends, from all accounts, had a wonderful evening at the dance. Just a great time hanging out with their high school friends. His friend had just recently gotten his driver's license. Randy, along with his twin brother, one other boy, were riding along with this guy that had just gotten his license, the driver. They decided to veer off on a dirt road. There are a lot of dirt roads out here in Michigan that the kids kind of like to go a little too fast on. And they were going a little too fast when they ran into an object, perhaps a tree. The driver died instantly. Randy was knocked unconscious, and one of the boys was able to get up. Problem was, being on a dirt road, not many people drive around, and nobody drove past him, so this boy had to go get help, and it was several hours before anyone came to help out Randy.
It was Saturday, and he remained on life support until Tuesday, and sadly his family had to take him off. However, he had several organs that were donated: his eyes, kidney, liver, and pancreas, to help others in need.
Randy Gardner. We have the picture of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, 1971 to 1986. Sadly missed by mom, dad, and brothers. On April 1st, 2005, two horrible accidents happened within minutes of each other in Lapeer County that left 9 young people dead. 8 of the dead were teenagers, while the 9th victim was just 23 years old. The first accident was called in at 11:13 p.m. in Almont, Michigan, where 5 teenagers were riding on a dirt gravel road. As the Chevy Cavalier the teens were riding in came over a hill, the driver lost control of the car and slammed into a boulder, as well as several trees. The car then burst into flames. 3 girls and 2 boys were in the car at the time. They all died at the scene. The victims were so badly burned, investigators had to use dental records to identify the victims. The other 3 died in a separate accident, which was called in at 11:15 p.m., just 2 minutes later than the first one. It happened about 20 miles away in Oregon Township. In this crash, a 1998 Pontiac Grand Prix crossed over the center line and slammed into a 1998 Saturn, which was heading in the other direction. Jennifer McNaughton, who was just 19 years old, was driving the Saturn. She was trapped in her car, along with her passenger, 17-year-old Robert Thurlow. They both died in the car before they could be freed. The driver and one of the passengers in the other car were also killed. Jennifer N. McNaughton, May 9, 1985 through April 1, 2005, forever in our hearts. No farewell words were spoken. No time to say goodbye. You were gone before we knew it, and only God knows why. William Ernest Bala, who preferred to be called Bill, was born on July 6, 1918 in Cleveland, Ohio. According to his obituary, his parents never owned a car when he was growing up, but that didn't stop him from drawing them. In fact, that was one of his favorite things to do as a child, just sitting around drawing cars. While he was in the Army, stationed in Los Angeles, he met the love of his life, Sonia Faye Watson, who became his wife on New Year's Eve of 1943. After leaving the Army in 1946 with a bunch of decorations and citations, he worked with a man named George Walker, and in 1951, Bala, Walker, and a team of 7 engineers designed the first Ford Thunderbird, with Bill alone designing the emblem for it. He also designed the first Econoline van, as well as other Ford products. Later, he designed the front grille for the Ford Bronco, as well as Matchbox cars. The couple was married for 62 years.
According to the May 31st, 1895 edition of the Brainerd Dispatch, Joseph Martin, an old employee of the Northern Pacific, had his foot crushed on Friday near Brule, where he was employed on the work train. He was taken to Superior, where the foot was amputated, and he was brought to his home on Saturday night. The next spring, he died of blood poisoning because of the health problems he was still having from the accident. That happened in Minnesota, and his remains were sent here to Lapeer. Deborah Ann Point, who liked to be called Debbie, was born October 9th, 1955, died October 19th, 2015, after courageously battling cancer. Her obituary says, for most of her adult life, Debbie worked in the medical field where she lovingly cared for others. On October 5th, 1985, she married Tom Point, who has a spot prepared next to her on her headstone for when he eventually passes away. Thomas and Joanne Jensen were married for 49 years. Tom was a national sales director for Champion Enterprises, which is a construction business. He then spent 16 years as a general manager of Fantastic Vent Corporation of Emily City, which made vents for RVs. When Joanne died, she was a loving grandmother of 13 and great-grandmother of 7. Love the tree wrapped around the headstone of John and Nancy Condell. John served in the Army during the Vietnam War and then spent 35 years working at GM, while Nancy spent many years working at First National Bank in Lapeer. On August 19, 1969, Robert Charles Beckman was serving in the Navy in South Vietnam when he was killed by an artillery rocket mortar. Gwen K. Blazo. died after a courageous battle with cancer in 1999 at the age of 50. That wraps it up for our tour of the Mount Loretto Cemetery.
Here in Lapeer, Michigan, y'all please hit that subscribe button so you can join us on future adventures.
Come along.